Hey everyone, welcome to Wavemaker at CES live from our living rooms. I'm Whitney Fishman Zember and I run media innovation consumer technology for Wavemaker. Reflecting back on everything we've been seeing at CES and all the discussions, we've been so fortunate to have friends from around the WP network joining us to talk about what they're seeing, what they believe, and making predictions for the coming year. Today we have Sharb joining us, very excited, from Wavemaker. So Sharb, would love to talk to you today a bit about the future of work.
Sounds good, Whit.
Great. So over the past week, we've seen a lot of conversations around what the future of work is, what it could be, what it means for the way people engage with the world around them, as well as their colleagues, alone, things like networking, and how obviously technology can help solve for some of those frictions. What does the future of work look like to you?
Short answer is I don't know. And if I did, I'd be much richer. So I think, accepting that there are lots of unknowns is probably a good place to start. And I think it really varies. It depends on what you do and how you do it. We're very privileged. We're working in an industry where we can work from home. Obviously, there's millions of people who can't and potentially have lost jobs as a result. So, that's the first start. We can bring technology as an innovation for the way that we work. We should see it in the positive. There are obviously some negatives as a result of the technology and the fact that, our day parts have sort of merged a little bit, and what we do and when we do it have maybe clouded a bit too much. If you think about COVID in stages, stage one going into it, stage two kind of getting used to it, and then stage three, hopefully now coming out of it, the way that we've used technology and interacted with technology has kind of changed through all that process. I think where we're at now is we're probably fairly settled with tech. We're used to it. We're used to the role that it's playing in our lives in terms of working from home, which inevitably is here for good in some way, shape or form, right? We've all worked out that there are ways of working from home and still functioning effectively. I think there are lots of areas where it hasn't kind of quite got the answer yet. You just mentioned networking. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people were really excited about being at CES this week and meeting people and networking and doing all the things that maybe haven't happened for a long time. Really hard to replace that with technology in the long run. So I think there's still a gap there. But I think how we function with technology, there's still a long way to go. I think we're kind of just at the start of our journey as to how it can help us with work, how it can help us operate more effectively with our colleagues, with our clients, with our partners, which is exciting if you see it as a glass half full.
And I think you're right, especially when the future of work, I think a lot, especially because of lockdowns, we've spoken a lot about working from home, but the reality is it's just remote work, right? It's working from anywhere. And that, not in this weather, but increasingly will be public spaces and parks and your car, frankly, if you're trying to pick up a child during the workday. You're also, to your point, the day parts have changed, right? A few years ago, if a client had said, I want to reach a working professional through radio, what do you suggest? There was the commuting times, right? Like you knew when people were traveling for work, when people were going to be in the car, when they were on their own, the subway, and it was very, very easy to do day parts. And now those day parts have blown up, right? We've essentially lost 2-3 hours of putting on pants and commuting to the office, wherever you may be, whatever city you may be in. And that may be working hours, that may be family hours, that may be fitness hours, maybe pet hours, right?
Yep.
How do you, as a marketer, how do you look at the evolution of what a day part could be or should be or is becoming, and noticing that they're different for everybody, and seasonality, if you're young children in the house? What should marketers be keeping in mind as they figure out what the new day parts could look like and how they can be understanding and working towards the alleviating frictions that potentially can be emerging with these new day parts?
I think the best advice I'd give is follow the data, because those trends are changing all the time and they're going to continue to change. You just talked about targeting commuters with audio, targeting people in gyms. Like many people, you have your gym behind you. The obligatory Peloton over the shoulder that lots of people have sported this last 18 months, if you can get hold of one. So is that going to continue forever? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Schooling from home, hopefully that's mostly past now. For a while, that was a thing. And obviously how you would target parents and so on as a result was challenged hugely, or certainly, varied wildly versus what we were used to. So I think just following the data, getting good with the analytics, understanding, data sciences, things like this that can help us understand what consumer trends are changing will help us, understand and inform what the future is going to look like.
If there was a prediction that you had for the future work when it comes to technology, devices, tools, programs, I think it's 2022 and I've been in 4 calls this last week or so where I've heard the you're on mute, which I thought was so 2021, but it's not. Hopefully we have this conversation next year in Vegas during CES, but would love to hear, what is your prediction for the future of work and where we're going to see it go this year?
I predict that people will not stop saying you're on mute, because I don't know what it is about humans, but we have an inability to realize that we're on mute. I mean, I've done it twice today. I also predict that probably whilst people can do calls from cars, I've done 2 with people today, 2 of our management team. They were both going on 2 different car journeys. And I think we kind of all just agreed, like, you know what, this can just wait for another time. Like, do we need to do all these calls in cars? But you're right, it's not working from home, it's remote working. I'm not sure it has to necessarily be in cars, especially if someone's driving. I think that my prediction is that there'll be a merging of personal fitness technologies and professional work technologies. I think technologies have kind of, and I don't mean, as in they'll become the same thing, but I think traditionally our personal tech, our fitness, our lifestyle tech has been very disparate and separate from our professional tech. The whole working remotely thing has converged and merged the boundaries between professional life and personal life, which is not necessarily always a good thing. And I think that what you'll start to see is wearables and things like this. I know you have your Aura on your finger as well. I think some of the analytics, some of the feedback that we get from these things will be more about how to separate work and personal life, and how we can do it effectively, and how we can do it for the benefit of our health. Because if we're not careful, those blurred lines kind of can end up bad.
No, I agree. And I think with connected living and connected home and all these platforms moving to comparable, interchangeable platforms, you have an opportunity. It's not just about efficiencies around saving water or electricity. It's, to your point, if my Apple Watch is going to say you've been sedentary for an hour, you should take some steps. I would hope at some point there's a technology where the Aura or the Apple can talk to my Peloton, right? And I have a meeting with you, but we don't need to be on screen. I can just get a few pedals in, or if it's a walking, look, the treadmill, the walking desks, they may have been ahead of their time. If you could plug that into your desk, getting your steps in while you're working, right? If you can't take it outside.
It's funny, I was thinking about that yesterday, Sunday, and I was running, and I was thinking, are we there yet? Are we at a point where if I was on a treadmill, it'd be cool if I was doing a meeting with someone? Right. I don't know. I mean, are we there yet? How do you think people would receive it? I guess it depends on who you're in a meeting with and who you're speaking to.
I think it depends on the meeting, and I think it depends on the role. I've definitely had a few early calls where I just had to be a listener, and I found it much more efficient to just move my body. And I've worked with teams before where it's walking conversations, and as long as it's not the middle of Midtown and it's not too noisy, it actually, you get more out of people because you have those endorphins going and you have a clear head and you're not inside. I think you're right. I think there's an etiquette thing, right? Just like the beginning of the pandemic, when a few people would get up and you're like, oh, you're not wearing pants because you're not used to this and where your screen is. I think digital etiquette, just like we've learned about it for social platforms, for brand tweets, as we've seen in the last week or so with some aggressive tweeting from brands. I think professional etiquette, or what consists of digital etiquette, when all of this blends, to your point, when can I sit on a bike and talk to you, and when is it offensive, right?
Yeah,
is it it's both doing it? If it's a deep conversation, if it's a webinar, should you be expected to be able to move your body if you're off screen? You're right. I think there's a whole layer of etiquette that I think brands can shape, right? If you provide those frictions and alleviate those frictions, you can help set a cultural tone for people.
I'm surprised that I haven't yet seen a brand use in a creative way people doing a video call from their Peloton. I feel like there's. I feel like
pitch the next creative.
We'll stick to media. They can do the creative.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, this has been really helpful. I'm going to ask one more question of you.
Sure.
Future work aside, all of the things, I'm going to keep you honest, and I'm going to check in on this next year with everybody. Do you have any other predictions across the board that you have for 2022 that you think are going to come true?
I hope, and I would like to see volatility in NFTs settle, and I hope And I think that will happen as a result of people understanding it better and just kind of getting their heads around it. There's so much newness at the moment, and there's a lack of clarity around some of it. And I think that, as with all these things, after another year of understanding and seeing, working in real life and case studies, people will become more familiar with it, and then we'll see some of that volatility settle, which would be a good thing.
I agree. I think we are really in the peak of the Gartner hype cycle right now. Once people get past having the toilet paper NFTs, we can actually see the real value. I think there's a lot of value that we're going to see in terms of consumer loyalty programs, right? How do you move from having the plastic key card to the app to something that unlocks value in the digital realm as well as physical?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I'm very much looking forward to getting past this hype cycle phase.
Can I ask you a question then?
Anything.
What's the favorite thing you saw at CES this year?
I'll tell you what I didn't see. I'm a big fan of all of the adorable robots that are made to be companions that you usually see, like the Paraseal and the things for children. The only thing that I saw was a robot that nibbled on your finger like a baby or a pet, which to me, as somebody who's both had a baby and a pet, doesn't find that soothing at all. But I guess, again, with every crazy technology, there's always an insight behind it, which you need to understand. So to each their own. I'm such a fan of, full transparency, doctor's daughter, right? But I'm such a fan of the idea of bringing healthcare and monitoring to the home. I think the pandemic really showed there's so many cracks in an overworked system. But the fact is, relying on other people to tell you how you're doing and your health, it's such a lag even before the pandemic, from getting an appointment to getting a doctor to getting evaluated. Were so many technologies and tools that we saw this year, from heart rate monitoring to urine strips, that really help you monitor in your own home. Yep. And not only monitor your home, monitor with your network, right? So, unfortunately, my grandfather passed this last year, but he had a lot of health problems. But we were so lucky to integrate technology that while he was in Florida and I was in New York, we were still able to track all of his vitals, monitor anything that was weird, be plugged in with his help, be plugged in with his doctors in a way that you could only get if you essentially were with that person 24/7. And it's a credit to technology and the evolution of technology that there's so much more that you can bring into your home to keep you and your family safe and monitor things. So the little glitches become little glitches, not these big things that you just missed because no one reported it, no one thought to report it, and no one noticed it because it was in their sleep, or they tripped and just assumed they were being clumsy when it was something else. So all of these tools that are bringing monitoring for not only you, but the ability to track your family that's not nearby. Yep. I think it's going to save lives, and it's also going to shave a lot of anxiety off of people, right? Especially with the distance between people, and just giving you that confidence to make those changes and manage your own life versus outsourcing and relying on everybody else to help take care of you. I think it's very empowering.
Yeah, I mean, that underlying learning that physical presence isn't necessary for some things. I did a couple of doctor's appointments this year on video. We're all doing self-testing COVID kits at home. We're all using wearable fitness and lifestyle technology more than we have done previously, because we've had to monitor and look after our own health more probably in the last year and a half, 2 years than we ever have before. Be interesting maybe a year from now, hopefully again out of COVID, to reflect on all the innovation that did happen during this period, because some of it really has been truly amazing, and hopefully some of that stuff is here to stay.
I hope it stays, and I hope it also hits culturally, right? This notion of 10,000 steps, right? Anyone you talk to will say, oh, obviously the baseline should be 10,000 steps a day. No one spoke about that until Fitbit came out, and Fitbit pushed this whole notion of 10,000 steps a day. So to your point, whether it's Apple Watch or all of the wearables, you're seeing more and more tracking of quality of sleep as well as wellness, right? Yeah. The emotional, the EQ side that I don't think people realized till this last year, with all of the stress and all of the anxiety, that actually takes more of a mental toll or a physical toll on your body than if you're eating your greens, right? Yep. Hopefully that brings it into more consumer focus and conversation, which not only gives brands opportunities to support the wellness, but also you can't fix something if you're not aware of it. So I think that general awareness will help people a lot.
You on that, you think about new brands that have emerged like Noom, yes. Another, not probably the wrong word, but diet apps, but it's talking about wellness, it's talking about mental health, it's talking about how to do things. And again, these are conversations that hadn't happened previously.
Right. So I'm hoping that becomes a baseline. If anything, I'm hoping, we haven't seen much of it, but I'm hoping we come out of this whole thing with a bit more humanity, but also self-awareness of how to take care of ourselves and others, and recognizing emotional health is just as important as physical health, and they impact each other.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your time and your insight, and hopefully we can see how well we did on our guesses next year in Vegas. But thank you for your time, Sharb, and you can check this video and everything out on Wavemaker's website, as well as our Tech Trends of 2022 through the lens of CES, as well as these videos on our YouTube page. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sharb. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Whit.
Bye.